Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast 30 Dirty and Dying. I'm your host, Sabrina Rose. I authored the book 30 Dirty and Dying in July of 2025. I wrote that book just to document basically my survival of addiction, not necessarily to show people how to get sober, but just to explain to people how somebody can fall so far so fast. I started from the very beginning of my story and just showed everybody exactly how I wound up addicted to not just alcohol, but also methamphetamine and prescription pills. I also wrote the book that just came out February of this year called Finding Michelle Canoe, which was my documented experience with the DHS system in Maine, where my family experienced an ungodly amount of corruption, starting with not my mother Michelle, but actually with my great-grandmother in the early 1900s. Since I wrote that book, I've had a huge influx of messages and emails, phone calls, just people telling me that they not only believed me, but had almost the exact same experience. And because of that, I just wanted to provide a platform for people to be able to share their stories of recovery from substances, their stories of DHS and CPS corruption, and also just a platform for people to be able to join me and talk about recovery in general, not just from substances and foster care, but from any sort of trauma. So if you're interested in being a guest on my show, please visit my website, sabrinaillustrated.com, and you will find a form there that you can fill out and just tell me a little bit about your story, why you want to be on the show, and we can get scheduled to bring some guests on. This podcast is brand new. This is only my second episode. I do have a live stream channel that I have with my younger brother, Jacob. We were separated thanks to foster care. He went to one home, I went to another. Later on, he got reunited with his dad, but we just reconnected after 27 years. We just met up like maybe a month ago, and we decided to just start a live stream to bring other people on to talk about similar things. But I started my own podcast just so I could have my own separate platform to really delve into the topics that are most important to me. So here we are. I have been speaking with some individuals who might be potential guests on the show soon, a couple authors, some other advocates for foster care. Her name is Danica. I'm really excited to hopefully bring her on the show because she shares the almost exact same story as that I have, actually. She is an Indigenous woman from the Lakota tribe, and she is a recovered addict from alcohol and methamphetamine. So I'm hoping to bring her on the show, but if you're interested in hearing more about her story, I did just have a post on my Facebook dedicated to her and her profile and her work. So you can find that on my Facebook profile under Sabrina Rose, or just type in Sabrina Illustrated. I'm everywhere. That's kind of my brand name, Sabrina Illustrated, because I don't just do advocacy work. I also am an artist, and that is the name of my art business, Sabrina Illustrated. So I've kind of got my hands in like a little bit of everything. I do not work what you would call a traditional job. That doesn't work for me. Instead, I author, and I have my social media platforms, and I have my artwork. I also have a jewelry line called Sabrina Illustrated. It's all kind of tied in together, but my jewelry line is sea glass jewelry to help represent, the transformation that comes with a storm. That's kind of just what encompasses my whole brand. So you can find all of this right on my website, as well as my charity drive, Sabrina's Suitcases, which I started just this year, and our mission is to bring dignity and self-identity back to foster care. I want to see more community care in foster care. So the purpose of my charity drive is to collect donations of suitcases, luggage, backpacks, as well as personal hygiene items, especially things like dry shampoo and deodorant, and items of self-expression like cosmetics, hair tools, journals, art supplies. And I get all these donations rallied up together, and then I bring them to children in need in foster care. This is only occurring in Maine right now, but I'm hoping to bring it national. So if you are listening and you are interested in being a donation center for Sabrina's Suitcases, again, visit my website. You'll have to fill out a form, and we can get you set up to be a donation center and be a part of this charity drive that has already started to change lives. This is really what I'm all about, is just helping change lives, helping be a positive impact on this world, because for so long The only impact that I had was completely negative. I was your classic addict. I would lie, cheat, and steal to get whatever I wanted, and really the only thing I wanted was more drugs and more alcohol, right? So I'm trying to like make up for lost time. I've done a lot of really terrible things that I'm not proud of. I tried to be honest in my recovery, which was part of why I wrote 30, Dirty, and Dying. I laid it all out there for people to see and to admit my mistakes. It listed everything that I had ever done wrong. Up is that? Is that step 4? Somebody can drop that in the comments. Trying to make amends, and the first part was just admitting what I had done wrong. And now I'm trying to flip the script and do things right. I don't want to push this too much because I know what it's like to be that person who doesn't have faith in a higher power yet. But that was a huge part of my recovery and still is. My higher power, who I refer to as my creator. When I wrote my book, it all started because I felt like I had gotten a message from my creator that it was time to write a book. And I started writing 30, Dirty, and Dying only a week after detox, only a week out of detox. So my brain was still kind of like mush. But what was great was I had all of these journals that I had kept already for so long to refer to. And the more I looked at these journals, the more I saw a recurring theme of me thinking about my past and drinking more heavily whenever I did, or using substances, or at the worst, trying to commit suicide. And what's so crazy back then, I'm journaling about my past every day, and I still don't believe that I had PTSD or that I had a traumatic life. I didn't believe that back then, but thank God that I did keep those journals, because being able to compile them all and create a book, an actual memoir out of real, authentic journal entries, it's not something that I don't think it happens very much. I kind of got the inspiration, I suppose, from Nikki Sick's book, Heroin Diaries. If you haven't read that, I strongly recommend it. He kept a diary while he was addicted to heroin, and he published them to show people this is what it's actually like, because we can tell you what we experienced, but maybe people still don't believe us. I have had people tell me they didn't believe things that I had been through, but when I have a documented journal with dates and facts, it's kind of hard to deny it. It was really hard to publish those journals, though, because I also kept journals when I was in high school, and I documented the sexual abuse that was occurring in my adopted home. And my adopted parents read that journal and kicked me out. They also took the journals and burned them all. They burned all of the evidence of the sexual abuse. So I was so traumatized by that. It was really hard for me to pick back up journaling, but I'm so glad I did, because now I can bring these journals to other people. And I just think that so many people are going to be able to relate to the things I felt and the things that I had to do just to survive, and the trauma. And it has a happy ending. Luckily for me, really, my story, I should have ended up in a body bag. But by the grace of my creator, I am here. I was given a second chance, and I'm going to make the best use of it that I can. I'm going to try to reach as many people as I can. So I might look like an idiot on this podcast here, but if this reaches even just one person that it might resonate with, or I can bring one person on the show who just needs somebody to listen and believe them, I will be that person, gladly. And before I started doing like this kind of work, this advocacy work, I didn't really have, I would say, experience in this field of work. I did work as a social worker for a few years at a group home for transitioning adults, people who are trying to segue into their own apartment. I was a social worker there. I got done because I was drinking on the job. I also was a counselor at a school for troubled youth. I got done there because I couldn't stop drinking or doing drugs. And I have a degree in psychology. I did manage a year and 9 months of sobriety when I was 26, 27. and I went back to school. I got my degree. I had planned on being a substance use counselor, but I couldn't get behind the pay. I don't really want to make minimum wage, and so really, I just kept falling back into the workforce of bartending. I just kept going back to bartending because that kind of work could support my habits, cash on hand every day. People probably wouldn't smell the alcohol on my breath because there's alcohol everywhere. So I went with that line of work. But when I got sober, I decided that I was going to take a risk. I was going to try being an author. I'd always wanted to be a writer. I'd always wanted to write a book, but I could barely even put pen to paper at a time in my life. I couldn't even string a sentence together at some points outside of my journals. And some of these entries, they just didn't even make any sense. I was so out of it. But I decided to take a risk, and I took a trip. What was it? 6 months? 6 months into my sobriety, I went to Miami for about 5 months, and I met a lot of really, really awesome people who just really inspired me to try this whole social media influencing thing. And it popped off a little bit quicker than I thought. I'm not going to say that I am a super successful influencer right now, but I'm working it. I don't know. I've built I've doubled my followers since I started this. I doubled my followers. I've written the 2 books. The podcast is just another way to keep it going and keep reaching out to people. So this is really just going to be a very short episode today since I don't have a guest. This is just me introducing myself, telling a little bit about my story. And I'm really just looking for guest opportunities. I would love to have more authors on my page. Anybody who's written a book similar to mine, or any book on recovery or substance use, foster care, CPS, any of that. If you have experiences that you want to share, I'd love to have you on the show. I just urge you to go to my website, sabrinaillustrated.com, where you can fill out the form and get in contact with me, and we can get the ball rolling, get you scheduled, and bring you on the show. This will air every other Sunday. One Sunday I do my live stream with my brother, and the alternating Sunday I do this 30 Dirty and Dying podcast. I just want to maximize my time and reach as many people as I can. You can find my brother and I's podcast. We call it the Jake and Bina Show. It's kind of like a placeholder name for right now because we're just getting started too, because we've just met. But we talk a lot about our family and what our family has been through. We were completely targeted by CPS. So if your family has been targeted by CPS, I really urge you to join in on our live stream. We open up the floor to people to comment and share their stories. We really look for people to engage. We're not trying to just talk at people. We want to talk to people. And that's the same deal with this podcast. I mean, I can rant on all day by myself, but this platform is really to give others the chance to do that, because I've had my chance. I wrote my 2 books. I have appeared on plenty of podcasts and news stations and whatever else, but it's other people's turn, and I'm very happy to be able to provide a platform like that. I also have some guest appearing podcasts this month. I'm going to be appearing on a few different podcasts. I'll be able to drop those links here later. And I'm going to be doing a guest speaking conference to another Indigenous tribe about the foster care system in Maine. I'm going to be speaking in Canada on that, actually. So it'll be interesting to hear more on what foster care is like across the border over in Canada. I'm definitely interested in hearing stories from people outside of the United States, because I definitely can see the corruption in the States, but I want to hear about the corruptions in other countries. Like, I've heard a little bit about Australia, like I said. So definitely, if you're international, still feel free to reach out, because I think that this type of corruption is happening all across the world, not just in my country. And I've had a lot of people reaching out wanting to be part of Sabrina's Suitcases, and I would love to have more donation centers across the United States and maybe beyond. Right now we only have donation centers set up in the state of Maine, all across the state, but I think it's time to start branching out and hitting other states. So if you are a person or business who feels like you have the space to be a donation center, please feel free to reach out to me and we can get that set up for you, because there are a lot of kids in foster care and my goal is to hit every single one of them. That was a bad way to word it, but my goal is to get a suitcase in the hands of every single kid in the foster care system right now. So far, we've helped 100 kids in the state of Maine, but we definitely are going to keep it going. We're getting more and more donations by the second. And we have a lot of donation centers. I think we've got one in every county in Maine right now. But if you are in Maine and you still want to help out, please feel free to reach out, because the more the merrier. And, you know, there's always going to be a kid in foster care who needs support. That there will never be a lack there. Last I checked, I mean, everybody tells me a different number. So DHS in Maine says that there are 2,000, I think they said 2,100 kids in foster care, but I've found numbers that say there's 2,700. So we definitely know it's in the 2,000s mark. Over 2,000 kids in the state of Maine who are being forced to move from home to home with nothing but a garbage bag. That's how they did it with me in the year 1999, and they're still doing it today in the year 2026. It's absolutely disgusting, and I don't want to see it happen anymore. So this is a very important cause for me. And if you want to get in on the action, just drop me a line and we'll see what we can do together, because there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. Which reminds me, a lot of people have been talking about petitions or writing bills, and there is one petition that's going around right now. It's called Families Forever. And I did sign it, and I 100% support it. I will say it's a very extensive bill. I think that maybe we need to scale things back, and maybe each person writes their own bill for whatever corruption it was that they experienced. So like for me, my bill would focus on ICWA, or there being follow-ups for adopted children, because once a child is adopted, DHS disappears and they don't ever drop in or see how the child is doing or coping. And so I would want to write a bill on that. So I might be having a petition coming around soon. I'm still like working on it. I'm still, you know, tweaking it, but you will be able to find that on my Facebook page. And that is under the name Sabrina Rose, or you can find my blog page on Facebook, 30 Dirty and Dying. So yeah, we've got a lot going on right now, but all good things, you know. I'm very busy, trying to make it all work, trying to juggle it all, trying to make sure everybody is heard, but I am here for my community. I am here for you. You know, I've dedicated my life to this. It's really, I live and breathe it now. Just trying to be the change and encourage the change and be a support, because there's not a whole lot of it out there for the people who have been beaten into the ground by society. You know, we all know how hopeless it is to be in addiction. Just want to be a light for those people. So definitely stay tuned to 30 Dirty and Dying and all of my social media accounts. You know, they're all kind of conjoined. Keep an eye out. We're going to be having some guests on here soon. I think our first will be in 2 weeks, but in 1 week, this next Sunday, you can catch my brother and I's live stream. We're going to be talking for a couple hours, so definitely check that out. And, you know, just keep an eye out for Sabrina Rose and Sabrina Illustrated related podcasts every Sunday. You'll see me every Sunday. Just tune in. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X, Threads. I think I covered it all. So just tune in and see what resonates with you. See what supports, see what you get for supports, and just keep tuning in. We're here for you. Sabrina Illustrate. Hope to see you next week. Thank you for watching. Sorry this is a short video. Like I said, the future podcast episodes are definitely going to be a little more in depth once we get some guests on here, and just trying to promote the show a little bit to open that floor and get the invite out for people who are interested in being on the show. So thank you for listening. This is Sabrina Rose with 30 Dirty and Dying.